Hey everyone, it's Dr. Traveler here with Dr. Run, Think, Pray. Today is a physical day, and so we're going to cut right to it. Whenever I talk to patients here in the office, I always let them know that the brain of their health is their digestive system. So in the past we've touched on it a little bit, but today I wanted to talk just about the digestive system and things that you can do that are very inexpensive and very helpful to help with digestion. Now the first thing is, nothing works for everyone. There are some people who it's a little bit harder, and so we've got to try and get a little more specialized. But for most people, one of these things will work. And so I'd encourage you that if you want to be healthier, these aren't just for people that need to make corrections per se, but also just if they want their digestive system to be better. And so the first thing that I'm going to start with is the least expensive, and I have brushed on it, but it's apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is something that I use on a very regular basis. I know that the taste can be hard for some people, and so I would tell you that if you want to use apple cider vinegar, that it does get better, first of all, that I'd be patient. My dear wife, she gets what's called the puke shivers, where she just can hardly handle it. You can get it in a pill form. I know that there are different places that sell it. We don't carry that here in our office. We also don't carry apple cider vinegar. It's very inexpensive. You can get it at most stores. You can get it at Walmart. The thing that you want to make sure of when you buy the apple cider vinegar is that it has the mother. So it will be in quotations, the mother. And the reason why that's important is because really what we're talking about is fermented food. I would say this, every time that I get on apple cider vinegar, I can't help but enter into the realm of antacids. I am not a fan of antacids for most people. They're quite destructive to the digestive system, and the reason why is because, and it should kind of make sense, it's because our digestive system, our stomach needs to be acidic. And so people will say, well, I need to alkalize my body. And that is true. You typically want the body to be alkaline, but every part of our body has a different pH. And the stomach itself and our digestive system needs to be acidic. So if you're taking something like an antacid that's bringing the acid down and making it alkaline, you're really, in most cases, shooting your digestive system in the foot. I definitely want to clarify, there are people that it does benefit. Some people will say that I always have to take an antacid, and if that's the case, you're going to want to consult a physician, preferably a holistic physician or an MD that is understanding what is happening if you need to take an antacid all the time. So essentially, if you're someone who chronically has to take an antacid, what's happening is, let's take meat because that's what it really hits. To digest meat or any sort of protein is really hard on the system if your acid is too low. So essentially you'll take the food into your system, it will go down into the stomach and it will putrefy. And when it putrefies, then you end up getting a lot of heavy acid or that burning feeling, and that's why you get the heartburn. And so what do you have to do? You have to take another antacid, which kills it down, kind of doesn't properly digest the food. And so now you start getting into leaky gut syndrome and things, because now big chunks of food are getting down into the intestines that should have been taken care of in the stomach. It's just a horrible cycle to get stuck in. And now again, the next time that you eat, you're alkaline because you've taken an antacid, and the whole thing, just the cycle gets going. So you do need to be careful, especially if you have taken a lot of antacids in the past. If you're starting with something like apple cider vinegar, I would do it cautiously, maybe not as aggressive as I will get to here in just a little bit. So I would be aware that apple cider vinegar can be very helpful, but not a cure-all for everybody. Now, so that's kind of the main thing with apple cider vinegar. Now, the way that I take it, I take a half a cup of water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And I just take that at the end of my day. Some people will take it in the morning, some in the evening. Everyone needs to figure that out on their own. So for me, I do a half a cup of water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. There are people who will add natural and organic honey. That helps to sweeten it, but actually the honey is also a digestive aid if it's natural and organic, and preferably honey from your area. So that's something that you can add to the apple cider vinegar so that it will taste a little bit better. Now, if you're having a lot of digestive problems and you really want to attack it, again, I would be careful. That's the way that I take it, and that's actually something that most people can start with, even if you've been taking an antacid at the end of the day, that half a cup of water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar at the end of the day. If you really want to get after your digestion and make those corrections, you can do that same recipe, a half a cup of water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and you can take it on top of your meal. So some people will mix it, mix it in a gallon or a half gallon and use that same ratio, but just so that you don't have to mix it over and over and over each time that you eat. But if you do that on top of your meal and do that regularly, then someone that's having a lot of digestive issues, if that acid and pH balance is a problem, you can reset that. So that's something easy, cheap. I mean, it costs almost nothing that anyone can do to take care of. The next, I'll just move to like supplementation in our office. My biggest question when people are coming in with digestive issues, and again, some are much more complicated than this, we're just scratching the surface, that will fix if you're having digestive issues. I think the majority of people can see great results by just correcting one of these three things if it's supplements. Whether you're having a hard time with proteins, carbohydrates, or fats. So those are your macronutrients. If you're having a hard time with one of those, then, and this is very basic and simple, so those you experts out there don't have to critique, you can just accept it for what it's worth, because this really does help, and I've seen it help patients over and over and over. I typically give the recommendations if you're having a hard time with proteins. I recommend a supplement called Zypan. There are recommendations on the bottle if you get that, and you can take it just as recommended on the bottle. Some people will take more than that. 2 to 3 per meal is probably what I would suggest, especially in the beginning. It does acidify the stomach, so be aware that that is an acidifier again. If you are having a hard time with carbohydrates, the thing that I typically will recommend is lactic acid yeast wafers. Lactic acid yeast wafers is essentially like taking fermented food. So it's like eating a bunch of kimchi or sauerkraut along with your meal. And those fermented foods tend to be really helpful for carbohydrate digestion. So that can be something if you're having a difficult time with carbohydrates. Now that's carbohydrates, breads or simple carbohydrates, which you shouldn't be eating too much of, like sugar and candy bars. But that also includes complex carbohydrates, like your vegetables and your fruits. So if that tends to upset your stomach, then that's something that you can add. And then the third is fats. For those having a hard time with fats, I have found that beta food, sounds like fish food, but beta food is for the liver and the gallbladder. And there is actually a beta food protocol where you're taking 6 a day, 2 per meal, and you end up doing about 2 bottles worth of that. They come in small, I believe 90 in a bottle, and that beta food protocol seems to work really well for those who are having a hard time with fats. I also do suggest, along with that, if you don't have a gallbladder, you can still do the beta food. It's not going to hurt anything. But if you don't have a gallbladder, then to add something like Colacol. Sorry, we had a little glitch on the camera. So I was saying Colacol. Colacol is bile salts. So if you don't have a gallbladder and you're trying to digest those fats, then Colocol can be something that's very helpful for you if you don't have a gallbladder. All right, so now I want to make sure again, if you, the first recommendation and the least expensive is apple cider vinegar. Helps with most cases. If you go to take the apple cider vinegar and have severe burning and having problems that way, now, I mean, it'll get down into the stomach. There is a little bit of a burn when you swallow it, and it is an acquired taste. So I'd be patient with it, but if you're noticing a lot of burning, I would discontinue. Do consult your physician if there is a lot of burning, but most people, if they're careful with that, or even you could take it in a pill form, tends to see that correction without a lot of problems. So that's my recommendations for today. Digestion, using the apple cider vinegar or one of those standard processed products that help with digestion of fat, protein, or carbohydrate, or if you don't have a gallbladder. Anyway, kind of scratching the surface, but can be very helpful. Remember, your digestion is the brain of your health. So make sure that you have a good and healthy digestive system, and you will really reap the benefits from that. This is Dr. Traveler, and I am signing out.